Welcome to Round Hill Radio. Through our conversations, we discover the holy in the ordinary, find moments of grace and peace, and redefine what we're talking about when we talk about faith. On today's episode, we have the very special guest, Risa Renae Harman. Risa is one of the professional musicians here at Round Hill Community Church. She's our soprano, soloist, section leader, inspiration extraordinaire. And I am so glad to welcome you to Round Hill Radio. Welcome, Risa.
Thank you so much.
We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's been fun to sort of see this evolve. I went down here in the cubby, down here in the downstairs of the church, and to finally be down here for the first time. So it's really cool. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, we sometimes call it the crypt, which makes it sound more ominous than it really is. I think it's a friendly space. So I wanted to sort of have this be an opportunity for our audience to kind of get to know you a little bit. So can you tell us a little bit about sort of what it is you do with the choir and what it is you sort of, what it is you do?
What do I do?
What do you do?
Well, let's see. So I grew up actually singing in the church. Okay. My dad he passed just a couple of years ago, but he was a Southern Baptist music minister.
Okay.
So I grew up singing in the church, in the choir, and actually I started singing in the adult choir when I was just 10 or 11, because I had some time to kill. Well, my parents were in adult choir and my dad was doing adult choir. So I actually started singing in the alto section of our adult choir. One of the ladies in our church was visually impaired, and so she had a seeing eye dog with her. Well, that was part of the reason why I wanted to go sit in the choir.
It's a big draw.
Yes.
It's a big draw, yeah.
To play with a dog. So, but growing up in the church and seeing the value of what the church music ministry is to the spiritual faith and of the congregation, as well as for obviously us as a family, and for me as an individual, as a girl, and growing up with that. So it's something that continued once I got into college and started studying music. We didn't have jobs necessarily in church back home. So when I got a job singing in a church, my father and I had a conversation about this was a way for me to help further my education. It was sort of as a way to, to have the job in church. It didn't seem to make sense much at the time. But so I've sung in a church throughout my entire singing life, and in some fashion. I eventually moved into the soprano section, which is where my voice normally sits or should sit, but I do enjoy a good chance to sing alto occasionally. Makes my chops, get my musicianship stays nice and clear. But sure. So as far as being a part of the church choir and as a soloist, my job is to help strengthen the community folks that have joined us for this particular part of their own faith journey, and using the music ministry to help strengthen that and their participation in that. So just, try to help with, the nuts and bolts of learning the music, and assisting, obviously, the music director with whatever, as sort of between you and them, and anything that I can kind of do to kind of fill in the gaps is kind of my main responsibility with the choir.
Yeah, I can't tell you, and you probably have experienced yourself, what a gift it is as a choir director to have someone like you, and of course our Dustin and Scott and our altos, they're sort of sitting with our choir members, because we say, no experience necessary to sing in the choir. All you got to do is show up, and we try to make it really accessible, but we sing some challenging music.
Absolutely.
And so having someone there who is, of course, knows the music well, is strong on the part, but can also, make suggestions on, like ways to think about an entrance or modifying a vowel, or all those little technical things that when you're the director and you've got 4 different parts to deal with, and you have a lot going on and all the music to get through and all the things on the choir director's mind, to know I cannot tell you the relief it is to know that Risa is on the job.
Oh.
It is such a, it feels like a partnership.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for you. And you are, beyond the fact that you are so incredibly good at your job, so it makes it such a pleasure to look up there and see Risa every Sunday. And today we did a 4-part piece, and sometimes I put on my brave pants and sing with a soloist. So we were laughing because she sang alto this morning.
It's good. I have to say, just to be fair to my soprano sister and across the globe, yes. Sometimes sopranos are known for only being able to sing the melody. So it's nice to be able to continue that musicianship thing and to make sure I can, because you do hear differently when you're singing an inner part.
That's right.
And so it's good for me just to keep, like I said, to keep my chops up, and it's fun. And the repertoire obviously is something that I don't usually get to sing. So that's also kind of fun to kind of do that as well. Yeah. And in that particular music, it's nice to kind of have that, beautiful floaty voice that you have on that repertoire. So it fits, it seems to fit the bill.
It does seem to work well. Yeah. As a group, it's really fun versus something a little bit, that I need a bigger voice for, which I don't have, which is fine. I'm an organist. So did you always know you wanted to be a musician? Were you drawn to there? Were you considering other careers? I'm curious.
Yes. Well, having grown up, like I said, in the church and with music, I have 4 sisters, and we used to all sing together as a family. We were kind of we were the Von Trapp.
You're the Von Trapps.
We were.
Yes.
And in the church community down south, we would go, I remember as a girl, and we would travel to churches, and we would do the church revivals. And my dad would lead the music all week, and then we would sing as a family, or then I would sing with my sisters, kind of the Harman sisters kind of idea. And I always sang a part then too, actually, now that I think about it. So it was always something that was there, kind of ingrained in your bones and your DNA. My parents both being musicians, and like I said, my sisters being so wonderfully talented in all kinds of things that they do. So I'm not sure I really thought about a career originally. I mean, I just kind of did it. And then I was interested in speech pathology for a little while because I like language. But then my sister, who was a big influence on me, my older sister, and she went to school and started studying music. And I kind of was like, well, that's hard. I wonder if I can do that too. And so I jumped into the music program, and I was not originally going to be a classical singer. I just wanted to learn to sing better. And kind of thought maybe Barbra Streisand might be the spot, but that job was already taken. So, and I found classical music, the challenge part of it really kind of, again, just made sense to my brain and the way I like to look at things. And so I just wanted to see if I could do it. And then I saw my first opera, and I fell in love with the drama and the voices, and everything's so heightened. Yeah. And I thought, oh, wow, that is really cool. I wonder. So that's kind of how I got started with it. But I don't know that the career part of it really came into play until later. It was just trying to, better my skills and to certainly just experience all the different pieces of music and composers and repertoire choices and that I had when I was in school. And I got out of my undergraduate degree, and I was kind of skewed young, so I wasn't really ready to do anything. I was like, what do I do now? So I went back to school and just continued studying because I wasn't ready to do anything. It was sort of the next chapter of my education that I went, okay, I think I can maybe do something. I'm not quite sure what. And that's sort of where the second, oh my goodness.
Young people running above us.
The second chapter sort of helped me move along in the idea of having a career of some sort in music, basically.
Yeah, finding your way through. What was the first opera you saw?
First opera I saw was La Gioconda. Kind of random.
It's kind of random.
It's like not maybe the top 10. I certainly don't recommend it necessarily as the top 10 for people first starting out, but something I don't know what it was.
It caught you.
It caught me, and of course, I'm nothing like the soprano voice that sings that part, but something just really, bit, and I took hold, and I was like, okay, and then I'm off and running. And like I said, in my sibling, Michelle, I have to give a shout out to her. She was such a huge influence because she was already out there doing. So she kind of paved the way a little bit and certainly opened up my eyes to things because she could already do those things. And so I was like, oh, my sister can do it. Let me try.
Yeah, been there.
Yes, exactly.
Does the pedagogy part of it, because I know teaching is a large part of your life now, was that always a goal? Did you fall into it? Because I know, you have such a gift at it.
I would have to say I definitely fell into it. I was not, I don't and haven't done things sort of in a traditional path because when I sort of finished the first wave of my education, I got out and started singing. So that's what I was doing, and which was wonderful and lovely. And then, life happens and things change, and I went, I need to maybe be thinking about what else I might be doing. And to be honest, sopranos have a fairly short shelf life sometimes in professional music. So I thought, So I sang for this lovely woman, Elaine Benazzi, and she was instrumental in helping me go back to school. So I kind of came back to school later to get my advanced degrees from there, with the idea of teaching and still sort of exploring my singing side as well, sort of not like giving that up by any means, but doing the pedagogy. And then I started wearing more arts administration hats when it came to helping young singers in the next phase of their career. So I kind of wear, as my husband likes to say, you wear a lot of hats. So I said, I do wear a lot of hats.
A lot of hats. So that was when you got your doctorate.
Yes.
Is that in pedagogy and then in performance?
Well, that particular degree it's performance. It's a performance. So it's not specifically pedagogy, but pedagogy was part of my particular training there. I was lucky enough to get a TA, a teaching assistant, where I was teaching. So that was my job while I was working on my doctorate. So I had a faculty advisor, and I oversaw sort of the undergraduate teaching program that all the TAs were doing. So again, I started wearing my administration hat. And so the teaching was sort of hands-on with guidance. So it wasn't necessarily technically the degree being called pedagogy was not a DNA in pedagogy, no.
Yeah. It's interesting. We talk about sometimes here on the podcast that musicians tend to not do just one thing.
Right.
Well, right there. Hello, hi. we piece things together. And and I always wonder, is that by circumstance? Is that by choice? Is that sort of like something, a part of our personality, where we sort of just kind of like you said, we like a rack of hats.
Yes.
What chapeau shall I wear today?
I think that there's a certain part of your personality, in my opinion, and in my particular journey, part of my personality was that there was also some circumstance presented it. I was not necessarily at one university and teaching just that for where you're so involved with what's going on in that particular school program. That's all you do. Certainly partially maybe because I live here in the Northeast. So, you are just, everybody hustles here for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit of the Northeast maybe mentality. I'm not quite sure. I haven't really thought about that, but certainly the wearing the different hats part was partially me, and I found that I enjoyed several different things, and it fulfilled me as a musician and as a person, that I go, well, what would I give up? Would I stop teaching? No. Would I stop doing that? Well, no. Don't make me choose,
Right. No, I can totally understand. That.
And sometimes you wish you had more time for one thing or the other, and the juggling part, I'm sure, as you know, is sometimes the hardest part of what we do, is feeling how much time you have to give to all of the different things that you do. So time management is really important.
It's a big part of it. It is a big part of it. I have so much admiration and respect for you as a teacher, because as we've explored on this podcast before, it is not my strong suit.
Oh,
it's really not. And I'm just so in awe of you and your teaching and all of that. I wanted to backtrack, if we could, really quick, because I'm so curious about this, because your father is a music minister in the Baptist church, you said, right?
Yes.
There's a tradition, isn't there, of conducting the hymns?
Yes, let me tell you, that is exactly what you do down south. And in church, my father would stand in front of the congregation, and he would lead the hymns. Lead the hymns, conduct the hymns, and obviously do the choir and the youth choir. And he was, again, he started taking on some more hats too. He was minister of education there too, so he oversaw the Sunday school program, some of those sort of things. And it was very much the idea of being a music minister. He went to seminary for that. So the idea of being called a minister was very sort of important and different than sometimes when it's other churches.
Like
and
a director of music.
Exactly.
Like I didn't go to seminary.
Yeah, so it's kind of that particular thing. But yes, he would lead the congregation, and when I was first starting, maybe it was a United Church of Christ church was my first job, and we're singing, and nobody led the hymns. Nobody was standing there. The organist was there, right, in the cubby, and conducting away with her head, and the choir was just kind of going along, exactly. But nobody was out there really technically leading it, and it's funny. I don't know where that got started, or whether I just knew that is the way it was done, at that time.
I hadn't experienced it until actually my grandfather's funeral in Birmingham, and it was at a Baptist church.
Oh, yeah.
And the music minister was there, and I was playing the service, and he's like, and I'll conduct the hymns. And I said, you don't have to do I've got it. It's under control. Yeah. And I originally thought it was like he thought I couldn't lead the hymns from the organ, so I took it a little personally. But I was also like 23, so you take everything personally when you're 23 and a young musician. You want to prove yourself to like an established person. But then I realized it was standard operating procedure.
Yes. I think partially it was a little bit of just the logistics of it. The choir is typically behind, then the organist. So it was kind of, he was in between the congregation and the music forces.
It's
so
very
kind
encouraging.
of keeping everybody together and we're going to let the organ play for a while. And then now we're all going to come in again. So that was kind of what was the norm in my church life.
Yeah. Did he play the organ?
Oh no. No. My mom. Now, see, my mom. They were a duo. Several of the churches where he served, she was sort of the part-time fill-in. Sometimes the rehearsal pianist. Sometimes a little bit of organ. Occasionally, she sang she was the soprano in the choir. So my mom did all the things to support my dad's music ministry. So she was equally as much a music minister as he was, even though he was, it was his job and that was his title. But usually a ministry in a family, the whole family is part of the ministry, in that regard, as far as when you're a church kid like I was.
Yeah. I always joke. I was kind of like wondering what Mary's going to be like, as like an organist's kid.
Yeah.
Well, my husband's creative too, so we kind of joke that she's probably going to become an accountant or something like super practical. We're all like artsy fartsy.
Well, sometimes the parents really like that when they go, oh, please don't be artistic.
Don't be.
Don't be creative at all.
Yeah. Well, that's very funny because my parents were both architects.
Oh, okay.
And they told me I could be anything I wanted to be, but maybe not an architect.
Oh.
They weren't gonna hard and fast give a rule, because obviously that's the quickest way to make your kid an architect is to say you can't.
Right.
But they were like, maybe just look at some other options.
I have to say, my parents never really. They were not one way or the other when it came to what we wanted to do. They were extremely supportive of all of our creative endeavors. In fact, I remember again, as a kid, there was a dinner theater in our town, and they were doing The Sound of Music, of course. So, of course, my sisters and I went and we auditioned, and I didn't get I was kind of in between the gawky age where I wasn't really one of the Von Trapp kids and in between. Yeah. But my two younger sisters were two of the Von Trapp kids. And my mom was one of the nuns. Well, so again, because I was tagging along, they let me learn the nuns part. So I learned like all of the nuns.
Oh, that's good stuff.
And I actually got to step in occasionally, but I could never remember which nun I was. So I would just kind of wait for in the song, How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria? Whoever, and there was a slight pause. It was like, oh, that's my nun. That's me. But it was theater, and my folks were extremely supportive about those sort of creative and going to opening night parties. I remember I had my first taste of champagne when I was at that party, and my parents, kind of sanctioned it, So they were really, really wonderfully supportive about what we wanted to do without, obviously wanting us to, not deal with rejection, which you sometimes do in creative arts, and or the struggle of, okay, how am I going to pay my bills or whatever that might be. So as parents, never wanting that for your kid, but knowing that that's kind of where we were, and that's where our talents, our God-given gifts were that, and so somehow finding a way to honor those, and so they've been great about that part.
That's wonderful.
So you will do the same with Mare Bear.
I will try my best. I will try my my best. We'll get her a piano teacher that isn't me.
Well, I would have to say that my mom was my piano teacher when I was a kid, and she was great, but I do sometimes recommend that it might be sometimes good to have somebody
I think I'll be
else.
calling my friend Jessica for that one here. Well, Risa, thank you so much for spending this time with me and our Round Hill Radio audience. I wanted to also mention, if you've ever thought, hey, the choir looks fun. Look how much fun it is. We have so much fun. And then if you'd like to brush up on some music skills before joining the choir, we have a program coming up on May 7th after church, which will be a sort of intro to music theory. So it's basic music reading. Mm-hmm. So sort of what a sheet of music looks like and how to find your way through, and some basics. We'll be doing that with Mary Jo Heath.
Kind of takes a little bit of the fear, perhaps, if you might be nervous about, I don't know, how do I do that? So this particular class they're going to offer is a wonderful way to kind of take that away and go, hey, this is available and open to everyone.
Absolutely. So. And it is. And the choir is just the most welcoming community here.
They're lovely.
So thank you so much, Risa. And thank you all. Round Hill Radio is brought to you by the friends and members of Round Hill Community Church. For more information, please visit roundhillradio.org.